Starlink is an important part of their success, and as I said, we expect that it will continue to be so.
It sounds like Starlink's so important, the US government doesn't want to risk offending a capricious billionaire who did some things that I think in another situation, the US government might want to say something about, but let's move on.
I think Jake Tapper might have a point. Now, what they're discussing here, of course, is Elon Musk and his Starlink satellites, which are providing some military capabilities to Ukraine in their fight against Russia. Now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken refused to condemn Elon Musk following author Walter Isaacson's claim that the billionaire sabotaged a Ukrainian offensive against Russia. And he would have the ability to do that because he controls the Starlink system. Now, regardless of your thoughts on the war in Ukraine, that is not what this conversation is about. We're not having a conversation about whether or not the US should be involved in that war. For the purposes of this discussion, we're gonna focus on whether it makes sense to allow for a single billionaire to have that much power over foreign policy, over what transpires in this war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, Musk got a lot of harsh criticism after the report that I was referencing. However, just a quick caveat that I think is important. Isaacson has since issued a major retraction of his original statement. So the following is the original excerpt from Isaacson's novel, which was published in the Washington Post back on September 7th. The excerpt has since been revised, but we accessed the original excerpt via the Wayback Machine. So this is what he initially wrote. In September of 2022, the Ukrainian military was attempting a sneak attack on the Russian naval fleet based at Sevastopol in Crimea by sending 6 small drone submarines packed with explosives, and it was using Starlink to guide them to the target. Although Musk had readily supported Ukraine, he believed it was reckless for Ukraine to launch an attack on Crimea. He had just spoken to the Russian ambassador to the United States. The ambassador had explicitly told him that a Ukrainian attack on Crimea would lead to a nuclear response. Throughout the evening and into the night, Musk personally took charge of the situation, allowing the use of Starlink for the attack he concluded would be a disaster for the world. So he secretly told his engineers to turn off coverage within 100 kilometers of the Crimean coast. As a result, when the Ukrainian drone subs got near the Russian fleet, they lost connectivity and washed ashore harmlessly. Now, Walter Isaacson issued the revision, as I mentioned earlier. So it was about a day after the report, and here's what he wrote. To clarify on the Starlink issue, the Ukrainians thought coverage was enabled all the way to Crimea, but it was not. They asked Musk to enable it for their drone sub attack on the Russian fleet. Musk did not enable it because he thought, probably correctly, that would cause a major war. So there is a little bit of a difference in the revised statement that I think is worth acknowledging here. So I wanted to share that with you. But nonetheless, I mean, keep it real. Musk is able to call some shots in regard to the war in Ukraine and the type of military capability Ukraine has as a result of their reliance on Starlink. And I think Antony Blinken, along with the Pentagon, doesn't really want to ruffle Musk's feathers too much, because that technology is really critical for Ukraine. And we know that Elon Musk is temperamental and might melt down if he gets criticized too much, and might actually, do away with that capability entirely. So I think that's why Blinken is careful. This is my speculation, but I'm curious what you think, Cenk.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things in here, and they don't fall neatly into one category or another. So first, to be fair to Elon Musk, he's not enabling them to hit close to Russia. I probably agree with that, to be honest, but I'm not positive because I don't know all the details. If I was in his situation, obviously I'd have a lot more information, right? But I'm not complimenting him because I might agree with him on where he drew the line. But here's the part nobody tells you, which is that without Starlink, and hence without Elon Musk, Ukraine wouldn't have been able to do any of the strikes that they have been doing against Russia. Starlink is enabling them to get real-time information that is allowing them to rout the Russian army. And so And that's for the great majority of Ukraine. That is why the Ukrainians are very careful in how they criticize Elon Musk. And that's also why Antony Blinken had to hold his fire there. Now, if you watch Young Turks at all throughout these 21 years, you know I do not like Democrats holding their fire, right, and keeping their powder dry. But in that case, it makes sense because you piss off Musk. What if he turns off Starlink for all of Ukraine? Then the Ukrainians are in a lot of trouble, okay? So give him credit for setting up an amazing system. Give him credit for letting the Ukrainians use it 90% of the time, right? In my opinion. And even if you disagree with him on the parts where he doesn't allow it. But Jake Tapper's not wrong either.
Right.
He is mercurial and they're worried about upsetting him. And that's why our Secretary of State is tiptoeing around the issue. That is true.
That is true. And look, whether you agree with what Musk is doing or not, whether you acknowledge that this technology is critical for the Ukrainians, all of that, put it aside for a second. I think the core of the question is, does it make sense to have a single billionaire have this much power over a war abroad?
I hear you, but that is, so now let me give both sides of that. Number one, I'm deeply concerned about what Walter Isaacson is saying here. We're kind of burying the lead. He's saying that he almost has multiple personalities, Elon Musk does.
Yeah, we have a video on that.
Yeah, so let's show that because that informs this part of the conversation.
Let's go to the next video.
He has so many personalities, almost like multiple personalities. And it's a bit like his father, whom he doesn't speak to now. But his father is a Jekyll and Hyde and sometimes goes very dark. And it happens to Elon too. He'll go from being very giddy or being in engineering mode where he can figure out the valve of a Raptor engine. And suddenly the clouds come. And the amazing thing is after he's gone dark and been demon-like and really tough on people, he'll snap out of it. And then I'll ask him, what was that all about? And he hardly remembers it. So when you ask about what's it like dealing with Elon Musk, I'll say, there are many Elon Musks in this book.
Great.
Okay, so guys, this explains a lot because we've been asking on the show ever since Musk became a famous figure, who's the real Elon Musk? On the one hand, he sets up Starlink, which is amazing, Tesla, which is in a lot of ways amazing. On the other hand, he looks like a buffoon running Twitter. So which one is it? It turns out it's D, all of the above. And that comment about multiple personalities and demon-like when he goes into the dark, I mean, you want to talk about dark brand, there's dark Elon, right? And that's a guy who had complete access to him. Like Trump, Elon Musk thinks, oh, if I give them access, they're gonna love me. I don't know, Isaacson saw the real Elon Musk or the several Elon Musks. So that to me is gigantic. And now back to Starlink and the Ukrainians. Well, do you want a guy with multiple personalities running something that is a matter of life and death like this? On the other hand, so what could possibly be? But he's the guy who set it up in the first place. The government wouldn't have had it.
I know, but Jake,
the US or the Ukrainian government without him.
I know, I get that, I get that it took Elon Musk to develop that technology and provide it for the Ukrainians, right? And that is, I guess, a point in the direction of those in favor of the free market and the innovation that it provides. But I just have a question for the Pentagon, which has failed every single audit that it has undergone in 5 years in a row. Where exactly does the $800 billion go? Does any of it go toward any research and development? Because why is it that it took Elon Musk to develop this? Where does all that money that we provide for the Pentagon actually go, right? And why aren't we providing the technology if it's so critical? The idea that we should have one unelected billionaire make decisions and call the shots in regard to our foreign policy, it's insane.
Yeah, so look at how fair we are. Elon Musk is these days a kind of a wacky right winger. We're not in favor of him. But at the same time, we're having a real conversation that tells you both sides of the story. And I don't know what to do about it. Okay, we're uncomfortable that this wealthy guy, I mean, it's like a sci-fi movie, gets to control who wins and who loses in wars. They could have sunk a giant part of the Russian fleet in that particular story they're referencing if Starlink was up in that portion of Ukraine, okay? So, which is the part that is near Crimea, near Russia, and near Russian-controlled territory. So I'm very uncomfortable, but I don't know what to do about it.
Well,
what are you going to do?
definitely-
You seize the company? No, I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't think we should. No, you can't do that, right? I think that would be wrong, right? And there's no way. There's like no appetite to do that anyway among those in our federal government. But I just think it's so incredible that, again, we are funded. Like, we're also paying for Starlink. We're paying for that capability in Ukraine. So like, obviously, I mean, the military wants that technology for Ukraine, so we, the taxpayers, are paying the billionaire for that technology on behalf of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like, think about that as well. So we are paying $800 billion a year on the defense budget, which provides nothing at this point. I mean, you see the way our soldiers are treated, both in the pay for active duty members of the military and also for our veterans and how they're treated after they serve their time. And then on top of that, rather than actually innovating and building the technologies ourselves as part of the government, as part of the Defense Department, we're leaving that to the billionaires who are also getting paid for it on top of what we're spending on the military.
And guys, there's part of that reporting was that Elon Musk talked to some Russian officials and made a decision accordingly. Now, if you're a right winger and you love Elon Musk and you think, well, that's okay, I like that he's working with the Russians, but mainly helping the Ukrainians, I like where he's drawing the lines. Think about this hypothetical. We're attacked here in America and Elon Musk decides he likes the Russians better and he's turning it off in America. Uh-oh, that is a lot of power in one guy. But there's one thing we can all agree on, which is a point Anna made about the Pentagon. What the hell are we giving you nearly $1 trillion a year for? If you say, well, I gotta give it to Elon's company because we're so incompetent we can't produce anything. Then why am I giving you $800 billion? Why? And you all know why. They're taking half that money, which is totally unaccounted for, and putting it in their pocket. They're robbing us blind. And corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans are thrilled to let them rob us to oblivion. Do your goddamn job. Do actual defense of this country and our allies, and we wouldn't be in this problem.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.